Peace. This body is multilingual. My brain formulates thoughts that are spit out as poetry, and my poetry can communicate in several tongues. My poetry speaks love, hopeless romanticism, and sacrificial lust, embellished for my own satisfaction. Metaphors and similes full of imagery that put you vividly where I once stood, staring in some chocolate man's eyes, Mars-stained marble moons haloed by hazel that happen to be harboring heartbreak that isn't so apparent. My poetry speaks depression, speaks anxiety, speaks bipolarism by way of genetic disposition, speaks schizophrenia by way of soul ties, personifying pain that can only be heard by those who have stomached this tug of war with their hearts in their hands because they got too heavy for their chests, because there are no best decisions. My poetry is a dog whistle that only the ear trained to listen for tears that never leave eyes can hear. My poetry is dead silence, when silence speaks volumes. My poetry speaks revolution, like the love someone smacked into the word and spelled backwards doesn't exist. My revolt doesn't involve kindness. It is not beautiful. It does not consist of a dream world where we are all equal. It is not a utopian society to displace this dystopian reality. It is not a prayer for gratitude for the buoyancy of Black bodies and how we have displaced our damage. My revolt is Newton's third law. Once a Christian sinner has already left church on a Sunday, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. My poetry is not always pretty, reminding you of the real rapists and murderers of this country. My poetry speaks memories, mine and those ingrained in my cerebral cortex. I'm not original. I'm just redoing, restating, and recreating history through neural connections I don't even know I have. My poetry speaks ancestry, speaks divinity, speaks light being that I know I am, speaks acceptance of self in the world around me. I create the world around me. My poetry speaks creator, speaks power exuded by me spiritually, speaks peace radiating through my earthly and ethereal vessel entirely, speaks transcendence of this earthly vessel entirely, speaks energy and vibrations and connecting constellations to make space for my inner child to heal. My poetry speaks of a black hole called shadow work, transporting me to a new spiritual plane. My poetry speaks transcendence, speaks moon water intentions and spiritual cleansing, speaks meditation and alignment and planetary shifts. My poetry speaks God, until I put the pen down and remind myself that this body is multilingual. And I hear a language coming from my hands, signing for me to pick up paintbrush and translate to canvas. My canvas conveys things I don't always understand, encapsulating emotions too large to be encapsulated by language. Layered paints telling of my layered persona. Mixed hues highlighting the blues of my balancing act with perspective. Spatial symbolism commemorating my favorite hyperbole. A one-circle Venn diagram of my reasoning for why the moon represents me. Craters on canvas categorizing us as one and the same. Galaxies filling the space between Black bodies. Gold accents to finish every piece, because regardless of the blood underneath, my hands force my pain to be pretty. And this is still the only language I speak where perfectionism doesn't plague me. My body is multilingual. equipped with a mouth that speaks English. That's Anglo-Saxon English when my imposter syndrome decides to suffocate my heritage in an effort to advertise my intelligence. I am pimping myself. My mouth speaks, you better not ask me what I said again, because I cut my accent all the way off, went back and checked twice just to be sure. My mouth speaks contradiction. The type of English with colloquialisms and slurred words with disregarded syllables. My mouth speaks slang when I am comfortable enough to relax this skeleton covered in black skin near other bodies that had no choice but to be bilingual. My mouth speaks survival, sometimes by accident. Like I don't mean to exist in survival mode. But my body is not multilingual by accident.